Textiles are an integral part of our lives. Clothes allow us the expression of individuality, and functional textiles are very useful when used in protective equipment, flooring, vehicles or furniture. In spite of all these different applications of textiles, clothes constitute more than half of all textiles consumption. The majority of fiber materials used are synthetics. That means materials produced from fossil resources, followed by cotton, whereby a majority of textiles is a composite of different fiber materials. Textiles belong to our consumption activities with the highest impacts on climate change, land or water use, following food, mobility, or housing. This is also because the circularity of textiles is very low today. Only 3% of all used materials are recycled materials, which mainly do not stem from the textile sector itself, but from other sectors. To make the consumption of textiles more sustainable, in March of this year, the EU adopted a new textile strategy. What this strategy wants to change and why this is necessary, we will discuss in this second Trash Talk on textiles, organized by VIRWa, the Vienna Institute for Resources and Waste, to which I warmly welcome you. In this first part of the Trash Talk, we will discuss how we consume textiles today and manage their waste, as well as the environmental and social issues related to textiles. In the second part, we will discuss what we can change in production, consumption, or end-of-life management to make the textile sector more sustainable. I am Magdalena Klotz, a PhD student at ETH Zurich in the field of environmental assessment and a science journalist, and I'm very glad to welcome and present you our guests. Eva Maria Strasser is the Managing Director of the Nationwide Professional Association of the Textile, Clothing, Shoe and Leather Industries within the Austrian Economic Chamber, which is the legal representative body of interest of Austrian companies working in these industries and functions as a service point, lobbying platform and information network for their members. Andreas Partl is a senior scientist in the research group for particle technology, recycling technology and technology assessment of TU Vienna and is an expert in recycling technology for fibers and textiles. Agnieszka Kuda has a background in law and has recently completed a master program in environmental technology and international affairs of the TU Vienna and the Vienna School of International Studies, in which she deep dived into how textile waste is managed in Tanzania. Vera Micarelli is associate professor at the University of Bari, working in the field of industrial ecology, assessing the environmental impacts of products, industries, or nations, and she is currently analyzing the textile material flows and arising waste streams on a European level. And Matthias Neitsch is managing director of REPANET, the voluntary representative body of interest of socially oriented reuse businesses, as well as repair networks and initiatives like repair cafes, and a key player in the circular economy debate. One goal of REPANET is an intelligent, fair use of raw materials and the creation of fair jobs in this sector. Matthias, why should we change something in the textile sector?
Broad question. First of all, I think that we have already reached the planetary boundaries of material flow, material consumption. So we have to reduce material flows in every sector, and textiles is one of these sectors. And this means actually to think about do we really need everything that we buy because we can wear only one set of clothes. I cannot wear 7 shirts. I can wear only one shirt at the same time. So why do it doesn't actually not make much difference if I have 20 shirts or 100 shirts in my wardrobe at home. And so in order to reduce this material flow, I could easily have only the one shirt that I wear and borrow the others, which are worn the next day by someone else. In between, of course, washed and repaired if necessary. So I think this is a very easy form to reduce material flows. So I think we should start there.
And today, Andreas, what happens to textiles if they are not used any longer in Austria, for example?
Well, there's a certain amount of textiles that are collected separately from the residual waste stream. Also, I think Matthias' organization, they are involved in this. And to a certain extent, these textiles are reused, but only a small part is reused in Austria. A larger part is exported to developing and emerging countries. And there's always the question, what is the quality of the exported items? Are they really rewearables, or is it just cheaper to export them and then dispose them somewhere else?
And do you know the shares? How much is really conveyed to a reuse and how much is elsewhere treated, roughly?
I think the share of separated collected textile in Austria is around 1/4. And according to a recent study, 2/3 of this 1/4 is reusable.
And the rest, what happens to the 3/4?
Well, if according to the Austrian law, it should be incinerated. But to a large extent, separation, the sorting is not taking place in Austria.
How is it in Europe, VIRWa? You looked at the European situation. Is it similar to the Austrian one?
Yes, it's not far from the European situation. The problem is to collect and to try to make longer the textile life within the anthropic system. Try to valorize, make more efficient the material and the flow and the energy hidden in the textile products, and to valorize this meaning, and through different possibility. And we have to reanalyze all the supply chain from the production to the consumption habits, and the idea and all the stakeholders are involved in this type of solution.
And also from Europe, a part of textiles is exported. You, Agnieszka, have been to Tanzania and investigated on site how textiles are managed there. Are they incinerated as well, or what happens?
So the data situation is very unclear when it comes to the export of second-hand clothes. But during my field trip to Tanzania, I have conducted a small-scale survey at the market at 3 second-hand markets in Dar es Salaam, and trying to assess the part of the post-consumer second-hand clothes as part of the post-consumer waste flow, and trying also to assess people's awareness about textile waste management in general. And the overall answer, how it was managed, was open burning, or just open dumping on the street, because there's like no separate collection system in place. There is also like no it is not common to reuse clothes also, because sometimes it is associated with a certain bias, because people think that they are passing on a bad karma when passing on clothes. So it is just common within families, but not like donating to more vulnerable groups. Yes.
Now we spoke about waste management. Of course, a large share of the impact is caused during production. Eva, are these negative impacts caused by European companies mainly, by Austrian companies?
As I'm the representative of the Austrian textile, clothing, shoe and leather industry companies, I have to tell you that if you produce, and the Austrian companies produce, the textile companies mainly within Austria, and the clothing companies produce mainly in the Southeast Balkan southeast of Europe, West Balkan, or in the pan-Euro-Med zone. And as you know, we have very strict legislation for our industries, for the textile industries, to get the benchmarks, what's coming in the air, what's coming in the water, and what else they are pollution. And we have really a hard time to comply with that because they are very high. And the textile strategy and the EU benchmarks will arise in the next couple of years dramatically, so that probably we will lose a lot of SMEs European-wide because it is too expensive for them to invest in much more techniques and machines, so that the impact will lower much more. Even Europe has lower impacts than the rest of the world, yes. But the idea of the EU is, if the EU raises their standards, even the other companies in the world would have to scale up their impacts of the environmental, and so it will start a better development worldwide to better green clothing. Mm-hmm. But it will be really difficult to earn the money to reinvest in the companies, and if the EU doesn't give us funding and feasible fundings, then we will have big problems. Mm-hmm. Because then they will close. They have to close down. Mm-hmm. But all my companies are in favor of the transitional pathway from a linear economy to a circular economy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it often comes back to the economic situation in the end. We will also in the second block speak more about what will change and what we can speak. Now let's briefly stay at the current situation. Why are today not already more clothes reused or recycled?
Well, they are not collected.
They are not collected.
And the thing is that up to 2018, textiles have not been in the focus of the Commission. We have Waste Framework Directive, we have a directive of end-of-life vehicles, we have a directive of end-of-life electric and electronic parts, and a directive on batteries, but there was no word about textiles. And since 2018 this changed, but it cannot be changed within a few days or within a few years. So we will have to collect more, and we will have to find a solution for funding this separate collection. And if we collect more, then we will also collect material that has to be recycled. Good. And that's it. This is a question. If no one invested money for developing procedures and schedules to recycle materials from textiles because they have not been collected. Mm-hmm. And no one collected because they have not been, it's a chicken egg problem. And now someone has to make the first step.
I see. So that means the recycling processes are also not ready on industrial scale. Is that the case?
Not at the moment. But I think it started some two or 3 years ago.
We call it in its infancy.
Yes, that's it.
And another part, for batteries or for refrigerators, they have time, or for Kunststoff.
Plastics.
Right, plastics. They always make research for 20 years,
30.
But 30 years, yes. But when you see what's the outcome of this, then we hope that we will be quicker with our research and with our funding in that way, that we will start getting better secondary raw materials much quicker.
And do only the processes need to change, or are the textiles already ready for being recycled, or is it both product design and processes that have to be developed?
Maybe I can add something to this. My member organizations, which are social and charity organizations collecting textiles for decades now, it started way back in history as a solely charitable collection to give used clothes to people in need. That was way back in the 60s, 70s when it started. And then more and more, it was more collected than people were in need. So these charity organizations started to sell on international markets these clothes. And that led to the situation that practically today, if for Austria, I can sell of what is collected separately, which is, as you already pointed out, just a quarter of what is wasted anyway. The rest is in this residual waste and is incinerated. But of what is collected separately, around only 5% in Austria is sold in Austria, sold or distributed to poor people in Austria, and 95% is exported. And of that, not all is reusable, but the biggest part is reusable, of course, and the rest is incinerated, dumped, landfilled, or whatever elsewhere. Over the years, the mix of this collection changed to lower quality. So it was more collected, but the quality went down. And that is due to the fast fashion, these clothes that are definitely, even if people donate them with the intention that somebody else is wearing it, it's not possible because it's worn out, it doesn't look good, it's shabby. And now that we have
Maybe you can briefly say, what does fast fashion imply? What does it mean, fast fashion?
Fast fashion is a mechanism that helps textile producers to grow and to put new clothes into a market which is already settled. So you have to reduce the durability of a good to sell even more into a market that already has enough.
Faster collection
that
changes.
is more or less, that is not only in the textile sector.
And then I have to add something else. Those companies which bring a lot of clothes for instance, of the European market, they produce, and they bring it to the market. Our companies, and even the most of European companies, they only produce by order. That means if somebody orders something, he has to pay in advance, and then he will get it. We are not producing and just putting on the market because our companies cannot afford this way of producing because they use quality in material, they produce quality material, yeah? Then they have a special fit, they have a special design for longevity, yes, right? And even how they make it, the cut, make and trim is different from a higher quality product than a fast fashion, you know? And therefore, that's always, and we import 80% of our clothes used in the EU are imported. And our companies have only a very small part. It's the same with Italy and with Spain and so on, right? But, you know, in the last 10 years, it was easy to say to a friend, let's go shopping, you know, and let's take a new T-shirt. 20 years ago, we were saying to each other, let's sit down in the cafe and have a nice cake or something, you know. And this ability changed in the society, and I think that's a mind-setting problem, because if I buy a T-shirt for €5, then I will take it for one night for the party, and in the morning I don't like it anymore, and it smells, and then and they don't wash it, you know?
To use it only once, yeah. And in Vienna there are so many nice cafes. So.
And of course, if I buy something cheaper, then I tend to wear it just once or twice, and I will consume even much more. So I think maybe not the collection of clothes is it's the most important aspect about the problem, but smart consumerism, as mentioned by Matthias, I think is much more important, because the durability of clothes has decreased by already 36%, and people sometimes just wear clothes like 1 or 2 times.
But they don't have a relationship to what they wear, and that's the problem. That's just like this. But I feel you should like what you wear and you feel comfortable. And now we could have the discussion between, you said what is needed, I just need one shirt, you know. But I feel if I can look in the morning and say, oh, tonight it's raining, okay, then I take a brighter color shirt because then it makes myself happier, you know. But that's not a problem, you know, to have one shirt or 5.
Education is another problem, because we have to learn to understand that behind the products there is a mass flow, an energy flow, and environmental impacts that really are not visible looking at the products. And probably if we boost in this direction, we can obtain different results, because we can obtain different consumer behavior, because production, as Mary said, is fit and feel this type of changement and necessity to conserve our natural resources and to conserve and to preserve environment. Probably from the side of consumer, probably we need to learn more in terms of education.
I would even add to this, it's not only education, it's a cultural issue of habit. So more and more over the past decades, it became a habit that you define yourself, your identity, and how you want to your image that you want to create for others with something new. So having something new and visibly new makes you better, makes you more cool. And this is slowly changing now, but we are just at the beginning.
Yeah, but may I add? So I think durability is just one point, and the other thing is behavior, because there's a study from the UK that 3/4 of people dispose of their clothes didn't like, didn't fit, didn't need, and only 19% they are worn or damaged. And if we increase the durability, well, we just tackle these 19%, but we should tackle the 3/4. And this is more behavior and not durability. So there are 2 pairs of shoes, but we have to tackle both, of course.
Yeah, we heard different facts now about the waste. On one hand, it has low quality due to the fast fashion phenomenon, and on the other hand, some waste might still be good to be worn. Vera, you work a lot with data. Do we have our necessary data on the waste flows, on the different waste flows that arrive in different points of the life cycle and from?
Data is always a crucial point, because availability in data is sometimes one of the main limits to our analysis. And so we can really understand or trace the flow, for example, related to textile, because we don't have data, or we face with the data too much different that make impossible to compare. And so to make a sort of inventory. This is a good base just to analyze what is the flow and try to answer to the question how, where, and when I can find waste or scraps or materials that could improve their meaning in terms of mass, in terms of natural resource. And so we have to organize a new policy related to availability on data. For example, we suppose that, and we propose a model like a pyramid. At the base of this pyramid, there is the data collection, but the data collection in the right way that could be useful to make an inventory, for example, analysis, or apply an MFA, a material flow analysis, or use for another type of evaluation, environmental one, and life cycle assessment. On the second level, we have data elaboration, and so try to make right analysis or to obtain right indicator, the environmental indicator. And on the top, of course, the decision maker that can use these tools to elaborate good actions or good and longer policies to improve the sector, in this case, textile sector efficiency and environmental performance.
Now, you have been very close to one waste flow. To come back a bit again to the situation outside of Europe, you said that large share is incinerated as well. Is this due to the low quality, or is the share also reused, or is the value of some textile waste in Tanzania retained in some ways?
You mean the parts from the second-hand
exactly,
clothing?
the second-hand clothing.
So the data situation is very unclear when it comes to the shipments, also because of the harmonized system codes from the United Nations, because it covers about, I think, 30 figures, and then you have, sometimes it covers belts or shoelaces, so it is difficult to trace all the textiles, and also there's a tendency to underreport the data from countries, or they don't have the data for 5 years, and then they get some data. And as I mentioned before, so reuse is not that common in they are buying second-hand clothes because people are buying second-hand clothes because of diasporic connections, or because it offers them the possibility to consume quality brands at affordable prices. Yes, but reuse is not that common as due to bias, and yeah, also the lack of awareness, because if people were more aware about the fact that they can reuse it, then probably they would do that.
Mm-hmm. But it's also, we don't know still a lot about what happens to our exported waste. Is that the consensus?
Yes, because there are some regulations planned on the EU level. They want to assess the shipments of textile waste, and countries willing to import textiles will have to notify to the European Commission, and they will have to prove that they are able to manage the textile waste in a sound manner. Mm-hmm. But who will control that? Maybe you know something more about it.
To export it out of the OECD countries.
Yeah, out of the OECD countries.
There we have you tackle now a main issue, the market surveillance. Even the market surveillance to what is getting shipped out, like on waste. And the other thing is, later on, if we have our circular products, how can the market surveillance be sure that not rotten products enter our borders and spill our market again? Because market surveillance is a real big problem. But the textile strategy announced inside, we will develop a digital passport, we will develop a digital label, and what are the third one? To help the market surveillance to control and get better data and get the products which do not apply.
Yeah, this applies for new products, yes.
But for old products, we can hope that this two IT supported devices will help to control it, because in the textile strategy it said the clothing should have CE labeling according to the toys. That means in the future only products are allowed to enter Europe with the CE labeling. Now you have to control this CE labeling, and then you have to control if they don't have the REACH, if they comply with REACH restriction and with everything. And as we know, it's really hard for market surveillance to prove that this product is not made out of a forbidden substance.
You mentioned now one very important point that is discussed a lot, and I think takes a lot of public awareness as well, the chemicals, potentially hazardous chemicals in textiles. So are they mainly a problem for the imported products? Because in Europe we have the mentioned REACH regulation.
Yes, but you may know it better, Andreas, but I think the REACH regulation and the sustainable chemistry politic of Europe will be more strict, and the skin sensitizer, many substances which are allowed now, which are okay now, will be finished in the next couple of years, because they will cause harm and so on. And they have a quick mechanism now, the EU, and we will really have a big problem to get the control of the imported products if they are not made out of these substances. And that will be even a competitiveness, a loss of competitiveness for our companies.
But the question is, who will control this?
Yeah,
of
it
course.
should be the market surveillance, and therefore we need the digital passport and so on.
I support absolutely what you say, and market surveillance will be crucial, not only concerning chemicals and these kind of things, but it's crucial because what is the situation now is that actually textiles that are produced in Europe under all our legal requirements and also textiles that are sold second-hand in Europe, many of them are more expensive at the point of sale than imported new textiles. These substances and the durability and these kind of things are just one aspect of it, but there's a social aspect to it as well. And I think it will be hard for a market surveillance to control that, because you can chemically analyze a product, but you cannot analyze who made it and what was the wage and the working conditions of the workers that produced the product in Bangladesh or somewhere else. But I think the digital product passport can maybe at least give a little improvement on that, because you can trace it back to somewhere else and then look there and not only look at the product itself. So I think we support the idea also in our European network, where I happen to be the president, where we discuss all these things very much. And we would like to see also informations like durability and repairability, and where to get spare parts like these little buttons and things like that, for where to get it also in this digital product information that must be available publicly then. So that would help us a lot.
We will develop this in the next 2-3 years. The digital passport will come up. The eco-design
I think it will take longer.
will have the digital passport, and we all have to work for it to get it in a good way and
but
practical way.
But this is just for the European clothes produced in Europe.
Even all products which enter Europe have to have a digital passport.
Otherwise, it would be an unfair competition.
Yeah, because it's very globalized. So
in the textile strategy, it's already said that it's not only for the European producer, it's for everybody, who enters with products into Europe.
Mm-hmm. That's very good.
Yes.
Now, another problem besides potential health risks due to chemicals or social implications, another big topic that is discussed are microplastics. As I mentioned, more than half of all textiles are made of plastics. How big of a problem are microplastics from textiles?
Maybe I want to start, because I put some points together here because of microplastic. I want to say textiles are not the main source of microplastic, number one, as often claimed. It's claimed, but it is not. No, they're different. They are the tires of the cars and so on. But you should make professionally and not emotionally talk about microplastic. The mode of microplastic for textile must be professional and not emotional. And right now it's more emotional, the discussion, than professional. And why it is? Because it still needs really good test methods that determine the actual fiber aberration. They are not common ones, we don't know. And for instance, it's known that natural fibers often have much stronger fiber aberration than many synthetic fibers. I mean, that are facts.
Then is it a problem if they reach the water, the natural fibers?
It is, no. Natural fibers are not persistent.
Yes, exactly.
That's the point.
Maybe chemicals.
But not the statements emitting microplastic can only be made with great care, because we don't know yet the really harm of our oil-based fibers. That that means equality. It's even a quality statement.
You,
yeah?
Andreas, you work with fibers. Is it difficult to measure? Do you
Well,
deal
I
with
think
this topic?
I can agree that it's totally unclear where all these microfiber emissions come from. There's the tires, they are very suspicious, but basically it's just, I think, a calculation about how many tires are sold in Europe, what is the width of the tire and how much is the profile that is emitted, and maybe it's not emitted to the air, maybe it sticks on the road. So no one knows really what has been investigated in some studies is the washing machine, but we made also a very quick and dirty study, and the result was quite normal. So the finer the sieve we use to separate the fibers from the water, the more fibers we collect, which is totally clear. But if you look into the literature, all mesh sizes of sieves are used. So you can never compare different studies. And the second thing is, it's also the amount. So if you filtrate with let's say coarse sieve, a big amount of fibers, then fiber clocking will occur on the sieve, and then you will collect much finer fibers than the coarse sieve would collect. So
Okay,
we need a really profound testing method.
Right.
Yes. And I think in let's say in Austria, the emissions in the washing machine are not the problem, because we have wastewater treatment plants, and the wastewater treatment plant gets out most of these fibers, and if the sewage sludge is incinerated, then it's not a problem. Okay, we must not put the sewage sludge on the field.
On the landfill.
But
right.
we have other countries where there are no water treatment plants, and we have a lot of countries where the people have no washing machines. They wash their clothes in the rivers. So, and the second thing is emissions into the air. So, and I think this topic was not investigated. I found two or three papers on that. I think you can see it if you shake your T-shirt in a room with the sun. You can see there are all the fibers flying around. So a lot of fibers are emitted into the air, but I think there's no real study saying how much it is and how can we mitigate this problem.
I very much look forward to, in the next block, talk with you about how we can solve all these problems. To end with this first round, I would be interested in which personal strategies you have to deal with clothing in a more sustainable way. Of course, it's difficult as part of a society, and a lot is in the hands of politics and big companies. But for example, Eva, you told me a beautiful example about a beautiful part of clothing, ball dresses, and I was jealous of not having the need to have ball dresses on my own, not living in Vienna, and that you told me how you use them and also what happens to them after you do not use them anymore by yourself. Maybe you can start with that example.
As I'm a Viennese girl, and I started to go on balls when I was 16. I was allowed to go on 16, and then I got my dresses and I wore them. And you go, let's say, between January and the end of February, you go at least to 3 balls a week. Yes, then you need always a little different dress. Okay, now then I didn't like it. I put it in my closet, and then I cut off the top. Then I put something else there. I went to the tailor. He said, "Okay, we switch it." And after many, many years, I mean, let's say I still have it now. I'm pretty old and I have some, but then they go to theater groups, and they can use it for their, das sind die Stücke, die Theaterstücke. Pieces, yes. And they have it, and then you clean it, and they stay. And I still see a couple of my things in different kind of. It's like
That's lovely.
Yeah, that's lovely. Yes, but if you like to go on balls, you develop a special relationship to your clothes. And I have my relation. I like to wear my things long, very, very, very long. And I have it maybe for 10, 20 years if I fit, you know. And then you have to get skinny again, and then you can wear some of the things. And that's it.
Very nice. Andreas, what about you? You have a very special shirt at least.
I think it's European made.
European?
Made.
Made. So it's already possibly better in impacts, as we have heard.
No, coming back to all of what we discussed, so I think we need different strategies and not only one. So of course we need to increase durability, we need to change the mindset, and we need to find the right balance. So we do not want this fast fashion or super fast fashion, and on the other hand we do not want a European standard suit, like the Mao suit in China some years ago. I think we need textiles to be a playground for designers, for creative people, but it should be the right balance. So we have to reduce the amount of textiles and the production of fibers, because currently we have 100 million tons of fibers, and if this growth continues as it took place the last 50 years, we will have 200 million in 2038, which is not quite long. And if we double the amount, even if then in 2038 we recycle 50%, we have no progress, because then the growth has compensated. The growth has compensated the technological advance. So we need to reduce the amount of fibers to be produced, the textiles, and we need to develop recycling technologies. So much money to my university.
Agnieszka, do you have any personal special way of dealing with clothes?
So for the luxury segment, I think also the rental services are a good way. But how I try to tackle the problem is I try to consume less by swapping clothes with friends. So we make some parties with my friends, and then we just swap clothes, or I do it with my sister. And I think that's also a good idea, because sometimes you feel like, I don't want to have this dress anymore, but somebody else feels like, oh, I want to have this dress because it's lovely. And
even with old clothes sometimes, right? If you have not worn them for a long time, you enjoy them again.
Yeah. And like the vintage sector is like for the second-hand clothes in Austria, also have like the vintage sector. I think that's
great.
Similar with my colleagues, we share clothes within my family and with my friends. So you have to go in a party, okay, let's go to organize your outfit, and we share.
You also have a high standard in Italy regarding clothing, so for parties and elsewise. Matthias?
Well, I'm a man, so men have
He has nothing to share.
men don't share, at least no clothes, and my personal strategy is to reduce my wardrobe as much as possible. I still have too much, although it is just a small part of what my wife has, but I try to buy new goods, durable, and this trousers is made in Austria, handmade in Austria by tailors, and it's made out of Turkish bio cotton, and so I think this is something, and I gradually change my old jeans, and if I have to replace them, I buy something like this, and I try to do the same with other things, and I wear them as long as possible, and then after that they cannot be shared, they cannot be even donated, so I have to throw them away, and in the future hopefully into a waste bin where it can be recycled.
Good. It's a good final word for this first block. Thank you very much for this nice discussion, and I look forward to see you soon again in the second block.